Here with Concordia head track and field coach Matt Beisel to preview the 2023 indoor season specifically, and there's not a whole lot of time in between the end of cross country and now the start of indoor track, with a early bird meet coming up before the end of the semester. No, there's some good momentum built through the cross country season and with what the other athletes have done to get ready, but how do you expect kind of some of that strong distance running to carry over in indoor track after they hopefully get a little break in?
Yeah, I feel very good about this cross country season. It was arguably the most successful season since I've taken over, and possibly since 2012, with the guys finishing second in the GPAC and our women barely getting edged out of second and into third, but then finishing second at nationals out of the GPAC teams that were represented, with some returning rock stars and some new freshmen and transfers that have really made an impact. So I anticipate that right off the bat we're gonna come back with strong relays. I feel like our men's distance medley relay can be an All-American relay. I also feel like our women can qualify both the 4x8 and the distance medley, and then it comes down to which one do we choose where we have a better chance at placing well. Individually, you've got Kylan Freiberg, used to be Heritage, but she got married this summer, and Riley Hacker, who have both been standouts in distances ranging from the 5K all the way down to the 1,000, where Riley was third at nationals last year in the 1,000. And then we add some newcomers like Julie McIntyre. She transferred here from Trinity Christian out in Illinois and immediately became my number 2, number 3 runner. And then you have Hannah Bentema from Bettendorf, Iowa. We call her Renee. You're going to hear Renee because we have a lot of Hannahs, so the girls all started calling her by her middle name. But Renee has done very well this season, was my number 2 finisher at nationals in cross country, and has a really great history of performance that should come into play in some of the shorter distances. And so then you look at the supporting cast. Rhea Kaczynski, who was our alternate on the 4x8 at nationals last year and who's an outstanding 1,500 runner in her own right. You've got my daughter Keegan, who was our number 6, number 7 on the national squad as a freshman, and then Amy Martin, a returning senior. So that kind of summarizes my top 7. On the men's side, you got Camden and Calvin. Both guys have run at the national level, made All-American. They're outstanding athletes. And then we have, after that, it's all sophomores and freshmen. But what a group of sophomores and freshmen we have. And they were a major reason. You think about Jimmy Nguyen and Aaron Gendro, who are my number 2 and 3 runner or 3 and 4 runner this year. Jimmy is a freshman out of Lincoln North Star, and Aaron is a freshman out of Omaha Burke. But then some of the other guys right there with him, Nathan Pennekamp, Thomas Gorline. I could keep going. It's a great group of guys and girls. So I think the impact that we're going to see in indoor, which really began for the first time last year, was both our men and our women on the middle and long distance squads putting big points on the board at conference, and we really need that on the guys' side so that we can have a shot at challenging returning champions Doane. And so I feel really good about what this will probably be the highest potential scoring at GPAC that my men and women have been able or predicted to produce. And then what can we do at nationals? That's the distance crew. There's a whole lot more to discuss.
Right. I wanted to talk about what's going on with the rest of the track program in the fall. A lot of work happens behind the scenes, but what can you say about the program as a whole, and what areas that have seen improvement during the fall?
Yeah, we don't do a whole lot of measurement during the fall, although we do have a couple of weeks called testing weeks where we do a deload about every 3 to 4 weeks or so, and then do speed and power explosiveness tests and run some time trials. And some early results have come out of that, but again, a lot can happen beyond that. And so it's just more of a checkpoint for us. But they do start working. We start meeting in the end of August and then practicing starting September 1st, and 5 days a week. the throwers, the jumpers, hurdlers, sprinters, multis, vaulters are all out there working. October, November is when they really start getting into more of the technical aspects, and the lifting begins to shift. And so I think we've got a great group of men and women, both new and returning, who are ready to be impact players in the speed and power events for indoor this year.
Well, particularly for the women, the bar has been set pretty high, winning 7 GPAC titles in a row, and a lot of top 5 placements at national national meets. How do you put into words just how difficult it is to do that, and without taking that for granted, what's happened over the last few years?
It's really truly astonishing to me. Like I never take it for granted, and I think back to the string of titles that we've had, and the fact that in the last 5 indoor and outdoor consecutive national championship meets, we have placed 3rd or 4th on the women's side. Like that doesn't just happen, and I have so much respect for the other teams on our campus who go and do battle regularly with the same GPAC schools, and to win a GPAC title is a big deal, and we've somehow pulled it off 7 times in a row, and so it will never lose its joy. Now, the big question is it is time for our guys to shine. It is time for our guys to do what we know they're capable of and be able to fight for that top spot in the GPAC and to place high at nationals like they did just a few years ago before we graduated off a few really solid people, and I think we've got the people to do it this year.
Get to the men more in a minute here, but wanted to mention some of the real top line athletes that the women have in terms of what they've done in recent years, but people like Rachel Battershell, Riley Hacker, Jordan Kepke, Josie Pels have multiple All-Americans, and some of them multiple national titles. But what do you notice just about their preparation and what it is that drives them to reach such heights that they have?
Well, and not just them, but right there with them, Allie Owings, Cam Picorni, Abby Gerber, Aaron Painter, there's some throwers that are right there in the mix with them, placing high at nationals. And so each of these, every one of our athletes is a different person. They have their, different things that motivate them, different strengths and weaknesses, but what an amazing group of leaders and humans that you just named. And there's not a single one of them that has not battled through setbacks of all kinds. And I know we're not, every team has these things happen. And I'm extremely grateful that God keeps bringing people like that to us. But if you look at Rachel, a returning 2-time national champion in the 400, who's running the healthiest she's run since before she came here 5 years ago. She's ready to rock and roll. She's ready to do the hurdles again. And Jordan Kepke, who's a sophomore this year, set our school record in the 400 hurdles last year, and then was the national runner-up in the 400s, but also in the 600 indoor was 3rd place. And then you have, I could just keep listing people. You look at Josie Pels, a 4-time national champ in the pole vault. You look at Amy Richard in the multis, who has done exceptionally well. Just could keep going. Riley and Kylan, who have been huge impact players. So I think they're just quality people who have a passion for each other, a passion for this school, and a passion for excelling in track and field, and they have really high expectations for themselves, really high expectations for the team.
And just to expand on what you've already talked about on the men's side, hopefully it's maybe their time to make a jump. What gives you that optimism? I know, as you said, long distance runners have a chance to maybe have one of the better track seasons maybe that you've had since you've been here, and I'm sure there are some other event areas you're excited about too.
Sure. In the throws, we have obviously guys like Chris Wren and Danye Buck and Darian Semedo who are just crushing it. We've been doing, some of the testing they've been doing in the weight room has been amazing. And again, I'm not going to remember everyone, but we have guys like that in the pole vault squad. Zach Zoner and Zach Bennett and Chase Berry are returning, and those three guys have really done well. We, in the hurdles and sprints, Colton Meyer, Mark Cook, those are two guys. We lost a couple of key pieces of our 4x4 last year, but those are two of our returning guys who can really make a difference. Wyatt Logan in the high jump, he's been a consistent national performer. Joel Raffey has been a part. He's a great jumper, a great sprinter, and he's been a part of our 4x1 relays. So many great guys that are contributors and impact players that are returning this year.
I was going to ask about the 4x4s too. As you said, you lost some on the men's side. It just seems to be something that's always a strength at Concordia. And how do you explain that? I'm sure that's a emphasis too in recruiting, that you'd like to have a lot of options at the 400 meters, but that's been kind of a traditional strength at Concordia.
It's really come on strong, and kudos to sprints coach Mark Samuels, who develops these athletes. I mean, there's not a single kid who doesn't blow away their high school times once they get here, and I think part of it is what he does as a coach, but also the atmosphere and the depth of the training group. Really, these kids push each other and have high expectations, and really good things start to happen. But I feel like on the relays side, our women's 4x4 is going to come back really loaded. And we lost Sarah Lewis and JC Pfeiffer, but we're returning, like Trinity Tolles is someone who was our alternate at Nationals last year, but in our testing recently, she was our #1 finisher, and she's running lights out. And so she's definitely ahead of where she was last year. Jenna Esch is somebody who had to deal with injury all last fall and indoor season, so we only began to see her shine during outdoor, but Jenna's a phenomenal runner. And then you throw, returning Rachel Battershell, Jordan Kepke in the mix, and then there's some others, some freshmen that are coming in who are going to be impacts. On the guys' side, it is a little slimmer than last year. We lost Xavier. Oh gosh, who else did we lose? I can't think. We lit. Oh my goodness.
Jacob Jennings.
And Cade Kleckner. Yes, thank you. So there were three of our pieces, but Mark Cook, who had some health issues last year, is one of our fastest 400 guys. Colton's running great right now, and then we have a couple of freshman guys who really are going to be a piece of that puzzle. I think 4x1 same. We've got a lot of depth in our men's and women's 100, 200 jumper group, and that's where a lot of our 4x1 national capability comes from.
Well, you talked a little bit about Jordan Kepke. It's pretty special for a freshman to come in and do the things that she did. I guess my question is, what are the prospects for freshmen that you have this year?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can expect anyone to do that much right away as Jordan did.
You never know.
But what can you say about the class of newcomers that come in?
Well, on both the men's and the women's side, we have a number of former state champions and outstanding athletes. On the distance side, again, we've got some people who've already proven themselves in cross country. Renee Bentema, our #1 freshman distance girl, and in high school, she ran a 3,000 meter at Drake Relays in Iowa that would have been a national qualifying mark. Her 1,500 would have been our third fastest time on the team last year. So she's great. Keegan, my daughter, she has had the most consistent cross-country season at a high level of speed that she's ever had in her life, and I feel like she's really ready to make some breakthroughs. So those are just a couple of the key distance people. We haven't seen everybody, but then looking at Alexandra Eisenhower, a Bloomfield High School sprinter who was the state champion in the 100 and 200 last year for Class D. She's a great runner. Kayla Kirshner from Ogallala, she's an outstanding 200, 400 meter sprinter. Emma Lloyd is a transfer from UTAN. She actually threw around 136 feet, I think, or 138 feet in high school, went to UNL for 2 years, never got to throw, and now she's transferred here, and I think she's going to be a big impact player. Taylor Myers, a sprinter out of Kansas. Haley Miles is a very high placing at state 100, 200 gal who's also a very good jumper in triple and long. Josie Noble from Cross County, she's doing multis. Josie was almost a 37-foot triple jumper in high school and a very good sprinter. I think she is someone, you know, if things go well, who could be an All-American at Nationals as a freshman in the multis. Neely Poss out of Central Valley High School out in the Sandhills in Nebraska. Neely's a great sprinter and a great high jumper. Brianna Quinn from Broken Bow, great 200, 400 girl, and then and long jumper, Adriana Rodensel, four-time state champion as a senior in the 100, 200, 300 hurdles and 100 hurdles, and her times, you know, in a number of events would have been national qualifying marks. So, and then Kayla Swoboda. Kayla was also an outstanding hurdler in high school, state runner-up at both hurdle events, and also 2 years in a row was third at state in the pole vault. So those are just the heavy hitters right off the bat, and there's other girls who are right there. So that you take that group and you add it to the returning group that we've got, that we've already talked about, plus some of our returning girls who I didn't mention, like Erin Boggs and Faith Enoza and Amanda Steinke, who are going to be doing pole vault and multis, like, whew, good stuff. You know, it gets me excited.
Right. I don't know if you have a few on the men's side that you wanted to talk about too.
So we have 3 new freshman pole vaulters, Evan Hill and Mason Ostermeyer, and as well as Spencer Kern. And those guys came out of environments where, like talking with Jason Berry, they are going to make an impact this year in how they've been practicing. Gage Fries is a phenomenal hurdler from Minden and was the state champion in the 110 hurdles his junior year. And he's a fantastic athlete. He'll factor in on our 4x4. And Grant Jansen, a Gretna thrower, really strong guy, doing some great things, even though implements change heavy. You know, for these male throwers coming out of high school, Grant, I think, can do something. Trevor Kunsel is one of the top freshman distance runners. I actually didn't mention him earlier, but he should be in that mix. Kirby Linhart's a transfer who was a triple and long jumper from York. We mentioned Jimmy, mentioned Aaron Gendro. Let's see, Miles Sad, Donovan Trumbull, fantastic high jumper, long jumper. The guy is going to be a big impact player. Joel Smith is out of Earlham, Iowa. He's a guy who's kind of an all-around good guy. We're just beginning to tap into his capabilities. Aaron Spivey, a very good jumper out of Virginia. Tyler Thomas and Carson Fellhofer, who just got done playing football, are going to be a part of our team. And Carson Fellhofer and Tyler both were great throwers. Those are just a few of them. I could keep going, but you take those guys, returning guys, just like the women, good things are going to happen. I feel good about it.
Right. It's a lot to cover.
Yeah, there's a lot of names.
Right. Just a couple more questions. Early bird meet is the first thing on the schedule. Do you have a blue light to kind of get, I guess, back into the swing of things before that? But what have you enjoyed about kind of having that early meet and trying to get some things accomplished before the first semester ends?
I think what we do is we get a lot of good out of it because our distance runners, it's not a huge emphasis for us, although we typically get some good marks. They've just finished a cross-country season, and so we're just starting to gear up again after a break. But on the speed and power events, those kids have been practicing for 3.5 months, ready to compete, and a lot of them are in a really good place right now, physically and mentally, and so they'll go in and make a big impact right off the bat before they head into finals and Christmas. And so each year, typically, I would say we end up with between 8 and 14 automatic national qualifying marks between the men and the women, and that's always a goal, is to try to get those early marks, punch our ticket so that we can relax a little bit and focus on refining things and get those out of the way, but also to give a boost of confidence. I always say going into Christmas break, the early bird meet does two things. It either, based on a kid's performance, it either tells them, oh my gosh, I better work hard over break because I've got a lot to do, that I'm not there yet. Or they're like, whoa, this is really great. I want to do everything I can over break to maintain this so that I don't lose it coming back off a break. I think those are the two sides of the equation that an early bird meet like this does. And we get to see some great competition from conference and non-conference schools that'll be showing up for that. It's the first opportunity for our multi-events. We have a really big group of female pentathletes, including some really good freshmen, and I think we're going to be impact players in conference and nationals this year.
And finally, as head track coach, you're overseeing a program with well over 100 athletes. I know you've tried to mention quite a few, but I'm sure it's not easy to keep track of everybody, to get to know everybody, but what do you kind of enjoy about having so many student athletes every year to try to get to know and to push them to be at their best?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously if you're coaching an event group, like I have 50 distance runners, Ed has 33 throwers, etc., you're going to build the closest relationships with those kids. As a head coach, I really do try to get around and stay connected bit by bit with kids in different groups. And as track season goes on, I'm going to now have more contact because I'm going to see them all the time when I'm not off with the distance kids. So that's exciting to me. As I've gotten to know all of these athletes through the recruiting process, I really value them. And something I often say to our team, and I talk to kids individually, is like I've mentioned a very large group of people who are going to be immediate impact players, but there's another very large fraction of our team that are still in the developmental phase. Some of them are going to be impact players as this season progresses, and some of them, and I have these discussions in goal meetings, may never score at conference. But every single last one of those men and women are impact players from the standpoint of, like, I can't imagine the team dynamic without them. Some of them, their grade is like, they go into it, they run hard, they jump hard, but their encouraging spirit, they pray for each other, they're good teammates and friends, and some, these athletes all work hard. So when you have everybody pushing each other and you see kids who may not score at conference going out there and giving it their all, it motivates everybody. And so I told one of my girls the other day when we were having a goal meeting for the track season, I said to her, look, okay, because she acknowledged, she's like, I'm never going to place at conference, but I love the team and I love these teammates. And I told her, when we win that GPAC banner, that banner is yours as much as everybody else's, because this team would not be the same without you. And it won't be the same once you graduate this year. And so everybody has a role, everybody has a piece of the puzzle, and I get the privilege of building these relationships and getting to know them, and I love them all. So yeah, to me that's the most satisfying thing, is those relationships.